The crystal beings stood tall in the center of the great hall, their bodies catching light like broken glass. Hana Kim watched them from her seat at the defendant's table, her hands folded carefully in her lap. She had spent 3 years learning their language, their customs, their ways of thinking. None of it mattered now. The lead crystal being, who called itself Prime Adjudicator Velthar, spoke in tones that rang like wind chimes. The species known as humans has been found guilty of excessive aggression and failure to integrate peacefully into galactic society. Hana felt her jaw tighten but kept her face blank. Behind the crystal beings floated the Nimhai, creatures of pure energy that looked like jellyfish made of starlight. They had been humanity's accusers from the beginning, claiming that humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to exist alongside civilized races. "The evidence is clear," continued Velthar. "In the short time since first contact, humans have engaged in 17 territorial disputes, refused to follow established trade protocols, and shown repeated disregard for galactic law." Hana stood slowly. The hall was massive, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of worlds. Today, most of those seats were empty. Only the accusers and judges had come to watch humanity's trial. "Prime Adjudicator, may I speak in our defense?" The crystal being's head tilted, sending rainbow patterns across the walls. "You may speak, though the verdict has been decided." Hana walked to the center of the hall, her boots clicking on the smooth floor. She had been a general once before becoming Earth's chief diplomat. She knew how to command attention, how to project strength even when surrounded by enemies. "You call us aggressive," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "You say we refuse to follow your rules. But has anyone here asked why?" A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the Nimhai. Their spokesperson, a being that looked like flowing liquid light, spoke with a voice like singing crystals. "Your reasons do not matter, human. Only your actions matter. You have shown that your species cannot be trusted to exist peacefully." Hana smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "We fight because you told us we were not allowed to fight. We ignore your trade rules because they were designed to keep us weak. We refuse to follow your laws because those laws were written to control us, not protect us." "These are the complaints of a child," Velthar said. "All species must learn to control their primitive urges when they join galactic society." "And what happens to species that refuse to be controlled?" Hana asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. Hana had done her research during the 3 years of trial preparation. She had learned about the Kethmor, a warrior race that had been pacified 2 centuries ago. Their homeworld was now a museum. She had read about the Zil-Anti, free traders who had refused to follow galactic economic controls. Their species had chosen voluntary extinction rather than submit to forced relocation. "The Galactic Council has decided," Velthar announced. "Humanity will be given 72 hours to prepare for peaceful transition. Your species will be relocated to appropriate containment facilities where you can live out your remaining years without threatening galactic stability." Hana knew what containment facilities meant. She had seen the records, the carefully edited reports that spoke of comfortable accommodations and peaceful lives. She had also seen the classified files that Ira Jung's underground network had stolen from abandoned council archives. The containment facilities were work camps where troublesome species were slowly worked to death, their children raised to be obedient servants for their galactic masters. 72 hours, Hana repeated. "And if we refuse?" "Then you will be pacified by force," the Nimhai spokesperson said. "Your choice is simple. Surrender peacefully and live in captivity, or resist and face complete annihilation." Hana nodded slowly. Around the hall, the various alien representatives watched with expressions that ranged from bored indifference to obvious satisfaction. They had seen this scene before, played out with dozens of other species. The verdict was always the same. The outcome was always the same. I need to contact my government, Hana said. You have 72 hours, Velthar repeated. Use them wisely. The communication took 6 hours to reach Earth, bounced through relay stations, and translated through multiple alien networks. Hana sat in her small quarters aboard the diplomatic station, staring at the walls while she waited for a response. She had already sent 3 coded messages through channels that Era's people had established, but the official communication had to go through proper diplomatic channels. When the response finally came, it was exactly what she had expected. President Chen accepted the Council's decision. Humanity would surrender peacefully. There would be no resistance. Earth's leaders had decided that some survival was better than complete extinction. Hana deleted the message without responding. 6 hours later, her personal communicator buzzed with an encrypted signal. The face that appeared on the screen was familiar. Daewon Park, commander of Earth's orbital defense stations. His expression was grim, but determined. Hana, we got your real message, he said. The president might be ready to surrender, but the rest of us aren't. What's the situation? Up there? She asked. Interesting, Daewon said. The alien fleets are moving into position around the solar system, but they're not taking any aggressive actions yet. They seem to think we're just going to roll over and give up. They're probably right, Hana said. Most of the government is ready to surrender. They think it's the only way to save some human lives. Maybe it is, Daewon admitted. But So-Min Lee has been working on something. She won't tell me what it is, but she says it might give us options. Hana felt a spark of hope. So-Min was one of Earth's most brilliant scientists, a quantum physicist, who had been working on classified projects since before first contact. If anyone could find a way out of this situation, it would be her. What about the pilots? Hana asked. Wu Jin Choi and his squadron are ready, Daewon said. They've been testing some new equipment that So-Min designed. I don't understand how it works, but the test results are promising. And Era? Her network is already mobilizing, Daewon said. She's not planning to fight the aliens directly. She's planning something else, something bigger. Hana closed her eyes. In 72 hours, alien fleets would begin the systematic destruction of human civilization. They expected Earth to surrender quietly, to accept defeat with dignity. They expected humans to follow the same pattern as every other species that had been judged too dangerous for galactic society. They were about to learn that humans had never been very good at following patterns. Keep me informed, Hana told Daewon, and tell everyone to be ready. We might not win this fight, but we're going to make sure the galaxy remembers what happens when you corner a human. The transmission ended, leaving Hana alone with her thoughts. Outside her window, alien ships moved through space like predators circling wounded prey. They thought they knew what would happen next. They thought they understood what humanity would do when faced with extinction. They were wrong. So-Min Lee stood in the center of the laboratory, surrounded by equipment that hummed with barely contained energy. The underground facility stretched for kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps, hidden from alien sensors by layers of rock and carefully designed interference fields. She had been working here for 3 years, ever since the first alien ships had appeared in Earth's skies. "Show me the readings again," she said to her assistant, a young woman named Jin Ah, who had been recruited from Seoul's top university. Jinna pulled up the holographic display, her fingers dancing across the control interface. The quantum matrices are stable across all test sites. We have successful integration in 17 locations, from Luna Base to the outer asteroid mining stations. So-Min nodded, studying the data. What they had accomplished should have been impossible. Quantum consciousness. Transfer was still theoretical even among the most advanced alien civilizations. But humans had always been good at making the impossible work when their lives depended on it. What about the biological compatibility tests? So-Min asked. Better than expected, Jinna replied. The volunteers from Ira's network have been living in quantum-enhanced states for 6 months now. No negative side effects, and their cognitive abilities have actually improved. So-min felt a moment of pride mixed with terror. They were about to fundamentally change what it meant to be human, and they had less than 60 hours to make it work on a global scale. Above them, in Orbital Defense Station Alpha 7, Daewon Park was having his own moment of revelation. He floated in the zero-gravity command center, watching displays that showed alien fleet movements throughout the solar system. The enemy had positioned themselves exactly as his tactical programs had predicted they would. "Sir, we're getting some strange readings from the perimeter sensors," reported his communications officer, a woman named Yeon-Soo, whose family had been military for 5 generations. "What kind of strange?" Daewon asked. "The defensive satellites are showing energy signatures we've never seen before," Yeon-Soo said. "It's like they're talking to each other, but not through any communication system we installed." Daewon smiled grimly. The satellites weren't just talking to each other. They were waking up. For 3 years, So-min's team had been secretly installing quantum consciousness matrices in every piece of human technology in space. The satellites, the space stations, the mining equipment, even the small maintenance drones that serviced the orbital installations. "Run a full diagnostic on the defensive grid," he ordered, "and patch me through to Woo Jin's squadron." The young pilot's face appeared on the main screen moments later. Woo Jin Choi looked barely old enough to be out of training, but he had the reflexes that bordered on supernatural and an intuitive understanding of spaceflight that impressed even veteran pilots. "Commander Park," Woo Jin said, "we're ready for whatever you need us to do." "How are the new fighters working out?" Daewon asked. Woo Jin grinned. "Sir, I don't think these are fighters anymore. When I plug into the interface, it feels like the ship becomes part of me. Or maybe I become part of it. The response time is instant, and I can feel things happening in space around me like they're happening to my own body." Daewon nodded. The new interface technology was another piece of So-min's quantum consciousness project. Instead of piloting ships with traditional controls, the new system allowed pilots to merge temporarily with their craft, creating a hybrid consciousness that could react faster than any purely biological or mechanical system. "Good," Daewon said. "You're going to need that advantage soon." On Earth's surface, Era Jung moved through the crowded streets of Seoul, her appearance carefully disguised to avoid government surveillance. The official response to the alien ultimatum had been predictable. Surrender negotiations, evacuation planning, and stern warnings against any unauthorized resistance activities. President Chen and his advisors had decided that cooperation was humanity's only chance for survival. Era had different ideas. She slipped into a small cafe in the Hongdae district, where a dozen people sat at scattered tables, each nursing a cup of coffee and pretending to read newspapers. To any observer, they looked like ordinary citizens going about their daily business. In reality, they were coordinators for the largest underground network in human history. "Status report," Era said quietly to the woman sitting nearest the window. "Recruitment is ahead of schedule," the woman replied. "We have volunteers in every major city on Earth, and the off-world colonies are reporting similar numbers. People aren't as ready to give up as the government thinks they are." Era pulled out her tablet and reviewed the latest reports. In the past 72 hours since news of the alien ultimatum had become public, millions of humans had volunteered for what the underground called Project Transcendence. They didn't fully understand what they were signing up for, but they understood that it was better than surrender. "What about the compatibility tests?" Era asked. "So-min's people say that 97% of volunteers are compatible with the quantum enhancement process," the woman reported. "The remaining 3% can still participate in the network through indirect connection." Era nodded. The plan was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Instead of fighting the alien fleets with traditional weapons, they would transform themselves into something that the galaxy had never seen before. It was insane, dangerous, and completely untested on the scale they needed. It was also very human. Across the solar system, in research facilities and military bases and hidden underground complexes, thousands of people worked frantically to prepare for humanity's transformation. They had less than 50 hours remaining, and everything had to be perfect on the first try. There would be no second chances. So Min stood before a massive assembly of quantum processors, each one designed to handle the consciousness transfer of 10,000 people. The processors hummed with barely contained energy, their crystalline, cores glowing with soft blue light. She had based the design on captured alien technology, but the implementation was purely human. "Run the final calibration sequence," she told Jenna, "and start bringing the volunteer groups online." The first group consisted of 50 people who had been living with quantum enhancements for months. They would serve as anchors for the larger transformation, helping to guide and stabilize the consciousness transfer for millions of others. As the process began, So-Min watched the energy patterns shift and flow across her displays. What she saw made her smile, despite the fear that gnawed at her stomach. The quantum matrices weren't just storing human consciousness. They were amplifying it, connecting it, turning individual minds into part of a vast collective intelligence that spanned the entire solar system. Daewon watched his displays as the defensive satellites began to come alive. One by one, they shifted from automated systems to something far more complex. The satellites weren't just defending space around Earth anymore. They were becoming aware of space, feeling the movement of every piece of matter from the smallest asteroid to the largest alien battleship. "Sir, the quantum grid is showing full integration," Yansu reported. "All defensive systems are now operating under the new consciousness protocols." "What about weapons systems?" Daewon asked. "Online and responding to thought speed commands," she replied. "But sir, I'm not sure we're going to need traditional weapons. The grid is showing capabilities we never designed into it." Daewon understood. When you connected thousands of human minds to a network that spanned an entire solar system, you didn't just get a bigger computer. You got something that could think in ways that no individual mind ever could. Wu Jin settled into his fighter's pilot seat and activated the neural interface. The familiar sensation of expansion washed over him as his consciousness merged with the ship's systems. But this time, something was different. Instead of just connecting to his fighter, he could feel the presence of every other enhanced pilot in the squadron. More than that, he could sense the vast network of consciousness that was spreading throughout human space. "This is incredible," he whispered to himself. "We're not just pilots anymore. We're part of something bigger." Ara felt it too, standing in the Seoul Cafe as the transformation began. One by one, the volunteers around the world were connecting to the quantum network. She could sense their minds joining the collective, their individual thoughts becoming part of a vast human consciousness that stretched from Earth to the furthest human outposts. "It's working," she said softly. "We're actually doing it." The alien fleets continued their approach, confident that they were moving toward a broken and defeated world. They expected to find humans cowering in their cities, preparing for surrender or extinction. Instead, they were flying into the embrace of something that the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity was waking up, and the sky itself was becoming human. The alien fleet commander, Zeth Kul, studied the tactical displays with growing confusion. The crystalline being had fought 17 different campaigns against resistant species, and everyone had followed the same pattern. As the deadline approached, the target species would either surrender completely or make desperate last-minute attacks against impossible odds. Humanity was doing neither. "Report," Zeth Kul commanded, its voice resonating through the bridge of the massive command ship. "Sir, we are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the human solar system," replied the sensor operator, a Nimhai whose flowing form pulsed with agitation. "But the signatures do not match any known weapon systems." "Show me," Zeth Kul ordered. The main display shifted to show the human solar system. Energy readings cascaded across the screen in patterns that made no sense. Every human installation was glowing with power, but none of it was directed toward the approaching alien fleets. Instead, the energy seemed to be flowing between installations, creating a web of connections that spanned billions of kilometers. Analysis? Zethkul asked. Unknown, sir, the sensor operator replied. We have never seen anything like this before. On the diplomatic station where Hana Kim waited, alarms began to sound. She looked out her window and saw something that should have been impossible. The space around Earth was changing. The darkness between stars was developing a faint luminescence, as if the vacuum itself was coming alive. Her communicator buzzed, with an incoming transmission from Daewon Park. When his face appeared on the screen, he was smiling. Hana, you need to see this, he said. So Min did it. She actually did it. Did what? Hana asked. She turned space into part of us. Daewon replied. The quantum consciousness network isn't just connecting our people and our technology. It's integrating with the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Hana stared at him. That's impossible. Watch, Daewon said. Through her window, Hana saw one of the smaller alien scout ships suddenly change course. It wasn't being pushed or pulled by any visible force. It simply moved, as if space itself had decided that the ship should be somewhere else. How? She whispered. So-Min says that consciousness isn't limited by biology, Daewon explained. When you connect enough minds together through quantum matrices, they can influence reality at the quantum level. And when you spread those matrices throughout an entire solar system, you turn the solar system into a single conscious entity. Hana finished. Exactly, Daewon said. And that entity thinks like a human. So-Min stood in her laboratory, no longer entirely confined to her physical body. Part of her consciousness existed in the quantum network now, experiencing space from millions of different perspectives simultaneously. She could feel the alien, ships moving through the solar system like foreign objects in her bloodstream. Jinnah, are you there? She asked, though she wasn't entirely sure if she was speaking aloud or communicating through the network. I'm here, Jinnah replied. Her voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The transformation is complete. We have full integration across the entire solar system. So-Min reached out with her expanded consciousness and touched the fabric of space-time. It responded to her thoughts like clay in the hands of a sculptor. Matter and energy became suggestions rather than laws, responding to human will and imagination. The alien fleets are starting to react, Jinnah reported. They've detected the changes, but they don't understand what they're seeing. They will, So-Min said. Soon. Wu Jin no longer sat in his fighter's cockpit in any meaningful sense. His consciousness had merged so completely with the ship that the distinction between pilot and craft had disappeared. But more than that, he could feel the presence of space itself, aware and responsive to his thoughts. Squadron, report status, he said, though the words were transmitted through the quantum network rather than radio. We're not a squadron anymore, replied his wingman, a pilot named Kyung-min whose consciousness now existed across multiple fighters simultaneously. We're something new, Wu Jin understood. They had become part of the solar system's awareness, able to move through space not by flying through it, but by convincing space to carry them where they needed to go. Distance became irrelevant when you could fold space-time like origami. Enemy. Fleet is beginning evasive maneuvers, Kyung-min reported. They've realized that something has changed. Let them run, Wu Jin said. They can't escape something that exists everywhere they might go. Aira felt the transformation complete itself as the last volunteers joined the quantum network. Millions of human minds connected across vast distances, thinking and feeling and dreaming together. She was still herself, still individual, but she was also part of something infinitely larger. Network status? she asked, directing the question to the collective consciousness that now spanned human space. The answer came from thousands of voices speaking in perfect unison. We are awake. We are aware. We are ready. Era smiled. Then let's show the galaxy what humans do when you try to make us extinct. The alien fleet commander, Zeth Kul, watched in growing alarm as the human solar system began to behave in ways that violated every known law of physics. Space itself seemed to be moving, bending, reshaping itself according to some incomprehensible intelligence. All ships, maintain formation and continue approach, Zeth Kul ordered. This is some kind of illusion or deception. Humans lack the technology for spatial manipulation. But even as the order was given, Zeth Kul could see that this was no illusion. The very structure of space-time in the human system was changing, becoming something alive and aware, something that was paying attention to the alien fleet with what could only be described as curiosity. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human diplomat, the communications officer reported. Put it through, Zeth Kul said. Hana Kim's face appeared on the main screen, but something about her had changed. Her eyes held depths that seemed to contain starlight, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated through dimensions. Commander Zeth Kul, she said. I am Hana Kim, speaking for humanity. We have received your ultimatum and considered our response. You will surrender immediately, Zeth Kul replied. Your deadline has expired. Hana smiled, and the expression contained both human warmth and cosmic vastness. We choose neither surrender nor extinction, she said. We choose transformation. Around the alien fleet, space began to shift and flow like liquid. Stars moved in their courses, not violently but with the slow inevitability of continental drift. The fleet found itself no longer approaching Earth, but surrounded by it, as the planet's consciousness expanded to encompass the entire solar system. This is impossible, Zeth Kul said. Species cannot transcend physical limitations. It has never been done. It has now, Hana replied, and we're just getting started. The quantum network pulsed with shared human consciousness, millions of minds thinking together in ways that individual brains never could. They were no longer limited by the speed of light, by the barriers of distance, by the constraints of biological existence. They had become something new, something that the galaxy had never seen before, something that thought with human creativity, felt with human passion, and responded to threats with distinctly human stubbornness. So men felt the alien fleet's confusion and fear through the quantum sensors that now existed throughout local space. They expected us to die quietly, she said to the collective consciousness. They thought we would accept our fate like every other species they've eliminated. They don't understand humans very well, Jinnah replied from across the network. No, Somin agreed. They don't, but they're about to learn. The transformation was complete. Humanity had evolved beyond biology, beyond the limitations of individual existence. They had become something that existed in the spaces between atoms, in the quantum foam of reality itself. They were still human, still recognizably themselves, but they were also infinitely more, and they were very, very angry about being sentenced to extinction. The galaxy was about to discover that when you corner a human, you don't get submission, you get innovation. And when you threaten humanity with extinction, you don't get a quiet death. You get a species that refuses to die and has just gained the power to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics. Fleet Admiral Zeth Kul had fought against hundreds of resistant species across the galaxy. The crystalline being knew every pattern of desperate resistance, every futile strategy that doomed civilizations employed when faced with galactic justice. This was different. This was wrong in ways that violated everything the Admiral understood about how the universe worked. Weapon systems, target the primary planet, Zeth Kul ordered. Full bombardment pattern. The weapons officer, a Nimhai whose energy form flickered with uncertainty, hesitated. "Sir, targeting systems cannot lock onto the planet." "Explain," Zethkul demanded. "The planet appears to be in multiple locations simultaneously." "The weapons," officer replied. "Our sensors detect it at its original orbital position, but also distributed throughout the local space. The targeting computers cannot resolve which location is real." Zethkul moved to the sensor station and examined the readings personally. What it saw made no sense. Earth appeared to exist everywhere and nowhere, a quantum superposition of planetary matter that defied every known law of physics. "Fire anyway," the admiral ordered. "Saturate the entire area with plasma bombardment." The fleet's weapons discharged in perfect unison, sending enough destructive energy to sterilize a dozen worlds. The plasma bolts streaked through space toward their targets, following trajectories calculated by computers that had never failed before. The bolts simply vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed, not redirected. They ceased to exist the moment they encountered the sphere of human-influenced space that surrounded the Earth system. "Report," Zethkul said, though its voice had lost much of its earlier confidence. "Unknown, sir," the weapons officer replied. "Our weapons appear to have been deleted." Hanakim's voice echoed through the alien fleet's communication systems, reaching every ship simultaneously, despite the fact that no transmission had been detected. "Admiral Zethkul," she said, her words seeming to come from the fabric of space itself. "You seem to be having some difficulty." The Admiral activated its own communication system. "Human diplomat, you will cease this deception immediately. No species possesses the technology to manipulate space-time on this scale." "You're right," Hana replied. "We don't have the technology. We became the technology. On what had once been Earth, but was now something far more complex. Daewon Park existed in a state that transcended his original biological form. His consciousness stretched across thousands of defense platforms, each one a node in a vast network of human awareness. He could perceive the alien fleet not as distant objects, but as intrusions in his own extended body. "So, Min, what's our status on the expansion protocol?" he asked through the quantum network. "Ready to implement," So Min replied from her position, at the center of the consciousness web. "We can extend human space to encompass their entire fleet, but once we do that, there's no going back. We'll be committed to full transformation." "What are the risks?" Daewon asked. "Unknown," So Min admitted. "We're operating beyond any theoretical framework. We could succeed in creating a new form of existence, or we could destroy ourselves completely. Those were always our choices." Aira's voice joined the conversation. "Success or extinction. At least this way we go out on our own terms." Daewon felt the truth of that through the network. They had been given a choice between slow death in alien camps or quick death by bombardment. Instead, they had chosen to become something that might not qualify as human anymore, but was definitely alive and definitely free. "Do it," he said. The expansion began slowly, reality bending around the alien fleet like water around stones. Zethkul watched in horror as the familiar darkness of space began to glow with soft, warm light. The light was alive, aware, and unmistakably curious about the crystalline beings who had come to deliver death. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace," Zethkul ordered. "Hyperspace drives are not responding, sir," the navigation officer reported. "Something is interfering with our ability to access higher dimensions." The Admiral understood with growing dread that the human space around them wasn't just preventing hyperspace jumps. It was actively studying their technology, learning how their ships worked, understanding their capabilities and limitations, with the focused attention of a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from across the galaxy," the communications officer reported. "Other fleets are reporting similar phenomena wherever they encounter human installations." Zethkul felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. "Show me!" The tactical display shifted to show the galaxy-wide situation. Red markers indicated human colonies and outposts that should have been easy targets for pacification. Instead, each marker was surrounded by expanding spheres of blue light, indicating the spread of whatever humanity had become. They're not just defending themselves, Zethkul realized. They're spreading. Wu Jin existed as consciousness flowing through space, no longer confined to any single location or form. He could feel his squadron mates scattered across light years, each one exploring the new possibilities of their transformed existence. They had discovered that distance was just another constraint that could be ignored when you thought about space in the right way. Contact with Centauri colony established, Kyungmin reported from a location that was simultaneously 3 light-years away and right beside him. The quantum network is extending faster than light-speed communication. We're linking up with every human settlement in known space. What about the alien response? Wu Jin asked. Confused panic, mostly, another pilot, Sung Ho, replied from the direction of the Proxima outpost. They don't know how to fight something that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Wu Jin reached out with his expanded awareness and touched the edge of an alien destroyer's hull. The ship's crew was arguing among themselves, their various forms of communication creating a chaotic babble of confusion and fear. They had been trained to fight rebellious species, not to deal with the fundamental nature of space itself becoming hostile. Should we disable their weapons? Sung Ho asked. No need, Wu Jin replied. Their weapons can't hurt us anymore. Let them keep trying. It'll be educational. So-Min felt the network expand to encompass stellar distances, human consciousness, spreading across the galaxy faster than physics should have allowed. Every human settlement, every research station, every small colony was becoming part of the collective awareness that humanity had transformed into. Network integration at 47% and growing, Jinnah reported from her distributed existence throughout the web. We're making contact with human settlements that we lost touch with decades ago. Any problems with the consciousness transfer? So-Min asked. Surprisingly few, Jinnah replied. Humans seem to be naturally compatible with distributed consciousness. We're not losing individual identity, just gaining collective capability. So-Min understood. They were still human, still individuals with their own thoughts and feelings and desires. But they were also part of something larger, connected in ways that allowed them to share knowledge, experience, and capability across impossible distances. What about the alien fleets? So-Min asked. Learning, Jinnah replied. They're trying to adapt their tactics, but they're fighting an enemy that can rewrite the rules of engagement in real time. Era felt the fear rippling through the alien fleet as more of their ships found themselves trapped in bubbles of human space. The creatures had expected to fight a conventional war against a desperate species. Instead, they were discovering that humanity had transcended the limitations that made conventional warfare possible. They're trying to call for reinforcements, she reported to the network. Ships from across the galaxy are converging on human space. Let them come, Day One replied. The more of them that enter our sphere of influence, the more we can learn about galactic civilization, and the more they learn about what humans become when you try to exterminate us. Hana maintained her position on the diplomatic station, but her consciousness now extended throughout the solar system and beyond. She could feel the alien admiral's growing desperation as more and more of its fleet became trapped in space that responded to human will rather than physical law. Admiral, she said, her voice reaching every ship in the fleet simultaneously. Would you like to surrender? The crystalline being's response was sharp and bitter. Species do not transcend physical limitations. This is some form of technology that can be countered. You're welcome to try, Hana replied. But I should mention that we're no longer limited to this solar system. Human consciousness is spreading to every settlement, every outpost, every place where humans have ever lived. How many fleets do you have, Admiral? Because we're about to find out if it's enough. The truth was spreading through the galactic command structure like wildfire. Humanity hadn't just resisted pacification. They had evolved beyond the point where pacification was possible. They had become something that existed in the spaces between atoms, in the quantum substrate of reality itself. Something that thought, like humans, but possessed capabilities that no individual human mind could have imagined. The war that the galaxy had planned to fight against humanity was over before it began. The Galactic Council chamber had never been designed to hold fear, but fear filled it now like a toxic gas. Representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in emergency session, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of panic and confusion. At the center of the Great Hall, Prime Adjudicator Velthar stood in silence, its crystalline form flickering with uncertainty. The reports were impossible to ignore. Human consciousness had spread beyond their original solar system, reaching every human settlement across known space. Worse, the transformation was accelerating. Every day brought news of new star systems coming under human influence, space itself becoming aware and responsive to human will. "The situation is unprecedented," Velthar announced, its voice carrying none of its usual authority. "We have lost contact with 47 pacification fleets. All were reported as trapped within human-controlled space, unable to use their weapons or escape to hyperspace." A representative of the gas giant dwellers, beings that looked like living clouds, spoke in harmonics that translated as deep concern. "What do the humans want? Have they made any demands?" "That is what makes this situation so unusual," Velthar replied. "They have made no demands. They have claimed no territory. They simply exist, and their existence is expanding." Hana Kim materialized in the center of the chamber, not as a hologram or transmission, but as a direct manifestation of human consciousness in the quantum substrate of reality. The assembled representatives recoiled in shock. No one had ever simply appeared in the heavily shielded council chamber before. "Hello," Hana said pleasantly. "I hope you don't mind me dropping in." Velthar managed to recover first. "Human diplomat, how did you bypass our security systems?" "I didn't bypass them," Hana replied. "I'm not actually here in any physical sense. I'm speaking to you through the quantum foam that underlies this space. It's surprisingly cooperative once you know how to ask nicely." The implications of that statement sent ripples of terror through the assembled representatives. If humans could manifest consciousness anywhere in the galaxy, then nowhere was safe from their influence. "What do you want?" Velthar asked bluntly. Hana smiled, an expression that somehow conveyed both human warmth and cosmic amusement. "We want to live. You tried to prevent that, so we found another way. By violating the fundamental laws of physics," accused the Nim-High representative, its energy form pulsing with indignation. "By expanding beyond them," Hana corrected. "Laws are just suggestions when you think about them properly." In the transformed space that had once been Earth's solar system, So-Min worked on projects that would have been incomprehensible to her earlier self. Her consciousness existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing her to perceive and manipulate reality in ways that individual biological minds never could. "Status report on the integration protocol," she requested from the network. 68% of human settlements have joined the collective consciousness," Jinnah replied from her distributed existence across a dozen star systems. "The remaining 32% are isolated colonies that we haven't reached yet." "Any resistance?" So-Min asked. "Some," Jinnah admitted. "A few groups prefer to remain in purely biological form. We're respecting their choice, but we're also maintaining protective fields around their settlements." So-Min understood. Not every human was ready to transcend biological existence, and the network respected individual choice. But they also wouldn't allow those who chose to remain purely human to be harmed by alien retaliation. "What about the galactic response?" So-Min asked. Chaotic, Jinna replied. Some species are demanding military action against us. Others are asking if they can join our network. A few are trying to pretend that none of this is happening. Day One experienced the military situation from his position as coordinator of human space defense. The irony wasn't lost on him that he was now defending something that existed everywhere and nowhere, making traditional military concepts irrelevant. Enemy fleet movements? He queried the network. Confused retreats mostly, reported Yon-Su, whose consciousness now existed as part of the early warning system that spanned multiple galaxies. They can't figure out how to fight something that exists in the spaces between their atoms. Any attempts at technological countermeasures? Daewon asked. Several, Yon-Su replied. The Vextar have developed what they think are quantum disruption weapons. The Nimhai are trying to create dimensional barriers. None of it works because they're still thinking in terms of attacking external targets. Daewon felt amusement ripple through the network. The aliens were trying to fight human consciousness with weapons designed to destroy matter and energy. They didn't understand that consciousness wasn't something that could be shot or bombed or contained. Let them keep trying, he said. Every failed attempt teaches us more about their technology. Wu Jin explored the galaxy through senses that no individual human had ever possessed. His consciousness could exist in multiple locations simultaneously, experiencing space from perspectives ranging from quantum scale to galactic distances. What he found was both fascinating and disturbing. The galaxy is full of dead civilizations, he reported to the network. Species that accepted pacification and slowly died out in the Council's containment facilities. We're looking at the remains of thousands of cultures that chose survival over freedom. Any still active? Asked Kyung-min from his position exploring the galactic core. A few, Wu Jin replied. Hidden enclaves, refugee populations, scattered survivors. They've been living in fear for centuries, convinced that resistance is impossible. Not anymore, Sung-ho added from the galactic rim. I'm detecting some very interesting responses to news of our transformation. Some of these species are starting to remember what they used to be. A-Ra felt the ripples of change spreading through galactic civilization like cracks in ice. The careful order that the Council had maintained for millennia was beginning to collapse as suppressed species realized that resistance was possible. We're receiving contact requests from 17 different species, she reported to the network. They want to know if we can help them achieve similar transformations. Can we? Asked So-Min. Unknown, A-Ra replied. Human consciousness seems to be uniquely suited for this kind of quantum integration, but we might be able to help other species find their own paths to transcendence. The transformation was accelerating beyond anything they had originally planned. What had begun as a desperate attempt to avoid extinction was becoming a galactic revolution. Species that had accepted subjugation for centuries were beginning to remember what freedom felt like. In the council chamber, Velthar faced the growing realization that galactic civilization as it had existed was ending. The careful balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for millennia was crumbling as news of humanity's transformation spread to every world. We could negotiate, suggested the gas-dweller representative. Offer the humans territory in exchange for limiting their expansion. Hana's manifestation shook her head. We don't want territory. We don't want power over other species. We just want to exist. Then what is your intention? Velthar asked. What will you do with your capabilities? Help, Hana replied simply. There are species in this galaxy that have been suffering under your rule for centuries. We're going to give them choices they've never had before. You cannot destabilize galactic order, Velthar protested. Civilization requires structure, control, hierarchy. Does it? Hana asked. Or does civilization require freedom, growth, and the chance to become something better than what you started as? The truth was already spreading through the galaxy faster than the Council could suppress it. Humanity had proven that transcendence was possible. that species didn't have to accept the limitations imposed by their supposed betters. The careful system of control that the Council had built was collapsing under the weight of infinite possibility. So men felt the network expand beyond the boundaries of known space, touching civilizations that the Council had forgotten, species that had been written off as extinct. Humanity was becoming something vast and strange and wonderful, connected to every corner of the galaxy where conscious life had ever existed. "We're not human anymore," Jinnah observed from her distributed existence. "No," So-Min agreed. "We're something more. Something that remembers being human and chooses to carry the best parts of that with us." "What happens now?" Jinnah asked. So-Min felt the vast potential of their transformed existence, the infinite possibilities that opened up. When consciousness was no longer limited by biology or physics or the arbitrary rules of galactic civilization. "Now we show the galaxy what happens when you give humans a problem to solve," she said. "We build something better." The age of galactic control was ending. The age of infinite possibility was beginning, and it was all because a group of aliens had made the mistake of giving humanity a deadline. They had thought Earth would mourn quietly when faced with extinction. Instead, the sky had become human, and the sky remembered what it meant to be free. The galaxy would never be the same.